It's time to play ball. Welcome to the podcast with no limits. Whether it be sports, current events, or random thoughts, this is the place to step in and stay a while. Your host is a proud alumnus of Rio Hondo Prep, a former minor league baseball umpire, and a man with strong opinions. Welcome to the Get Home Safe podcast and your host, Matt Hersema.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Get Home Safe. It is Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. And although I don't normally throw out the dates of the podcast anymore as I record them, I thought I would today, as it is a rather, interesting day in U.S. history, as there's quite a bit of activity going on in New York City, if you know what I mean. I won't get into much of that. I'm going to kind of let it all kind of play out, if you will. But yeah. Some are calling it a sham. Some are calling it justice. I do know this, that New York City, among other, large cities and certain states around the country, they have a very selective outrage when it comes to crime and just certain crimes and certain timing of things. I find it interesting that attorney generals in New York City, of all places, are now hammering down on crime after they have released, rapists and murderers and all kinds of criminals throughout the past couple of years. But hey, that's just speculation on my part. So anyway, yeah, way to go, New York City. Finally, no one is above the law, and I'm happy to hear that you are clamping down on crime. Although I think you could still probably steal $1,000 worth of stuff in stores. Sorry, $999. Or is that just California? I lose track of the truly destructive cities in America. And I thought it was hilarious when Mayor Eric Adams of New York City made sure to say, this is the safest. I can't even say it. Safest city in America. That is rather hilarious. But anyway, I'm not going to talk too much about that stuff today. Let me see. Let me check it. Kind of a day game situation here. Will this light help? Maybe a little, yeah. Anyway, it is a Tuesday afternoon, and I am actually home doing a recording right now, as I've typically been recording these episodes, as you guys know, on Tuesday nights and such. But here I am on a Tuesday afternoon. I am actually off this week from my job at FedEx. This is my vacation time, I guess you should say. And here I am trying to get a podcast out before I got to run off and do some other things. And, it's interesting when you do have time off, you look forward to it so much, and then it finally gets here. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, now I got stuff to do. And then you do a few things and you don't want to do things. It's kind of like, unless you have a true vacation plan where you're going out of town, you kind of have a tough time, at least I do, in like just relaxing a little bit. You don't have to get up and go to work in the morning. Although I did some other work related stuff today earlier in the morning. And I don't know, I'm a guy that it's hard to relax. And some of you may say, well, you relax plenty when you step away from the podcast every now and then. And yeah, I get it, but I'm kind of just wake up, go 100 miles an hour. Unless I have something specific to do, like, watch 16 basketball games or watch an NFL Sunday or something like that. Sometimes it's hard to just, hey, take a load off, put your feet up, watch a documentary or two, and enjoy yourself. So that's what I've been trying to do on this early start to my very, very young vacation. The whole thing where you're like, I need a vacation. Yeah, I need a vacation. You say that maybe throughout the year. And then when it's here, really not much going on. But anyway, here I am. Had to fix some of the lighting here. Is that, I'm not used to day games anymore. These middle of the day recordings as I used to do. So had to work with some lighting. It takes me back, man, to when I had a lot of time off and was able to do podcasts in the middle of the day. That was always interesting, trying to arrange with guests and things like, hey, the best time for me is in the middle of a weekday because I was working nights or whatever. But here we are. And, it was a good time for me to step away from work, honestly, because I made a major mistake. And for those that know me or are getting to know me, the mistakes that just I am so hard on myself. I'm very disappointed when I do slip up on something. You want to talk about my officiating career? I took things really, really hard when I made mistakes, and I made plenty of them because it felt like failure. And I think I love the saying, fear of failure or failing to prepare is preparing to fail or something like that. And then there's a fear of failure is something. What was it? I should have known. Should have written this down. But yeah, I mean, I was so competitive when I played sports that I hated losing so much more than I enjoyed winning. And the fear of failure always was tough for me. And so, I made a really, I mean, it's kind of a repeated mistake. I won't go into details, but when you kind of repeat a mistake or something else happens to you that you maybe can control in one situation or can't control in another, you just kind of, I don't know, I get down and baseball had to say, hey, next pitch, no matter how good or how bad, hey, next pitch, just hey, get ready for the next one. That's just life, right? And so it's hard for me to do at times. But I was happy to. I was kind of bummed that it happened right before my vacation. But at the same time, it was also in a way a blessing to be like, all right, good, step away for a minute. And that's something that I wanted to kind of think about is like the whole getting back on the horse kind of thing. Like when you do make a mistake, when you do mess up, are you the type of person that needs to step away for a while to kind of recover and try to be like absorb exactly what happened and break the tape down, if you will? Or are you the type of guy that, all right, let me get back on the horse. I won't make the mistake again. Let me get back at it to kind of shake this off, shake it off without having to sit and worry. I'm kind of in both camps there because there is a sense of, man, you just got to get back. If you mess up a pitch or something, like in analogy wise, you mess up a pitch badly. It's a long 4 days, for you waiting, or how many, 3 days or whatever, waiting to get back behind the plate. And you're thinking bad about yourself. You're thinking like, man, I don't know if I can do this. How could I miss that? That was so bad. That was so easy how could you make that mistake? Whereas it's almost better for you to be like, no, let's get back out there tomorrow. That's one of the beauties in baseball versus football officiating. When you made a mistake on a football field, you had to wait an entire week for the next game. And so it kind of would eat at you. Whereas in baseball, that's why baseball guys, I think, have a little bit more of an edge to them, because it's like, you got to get right back out there tomorrow for the next game. And that mistake, you can let it eat at you, but you're just going to make another one real quick. If you still have that on your mind, it's over and done with. You got to move on, learn from it. And so that's why in officiating for me, I always had that kind of baseball attitude, that baseball approach in me, because I did so much more baseball than I did football. And I just like the distraction almost, to be like, you could sit here and sob and worry about the mistake you made or what happened to you, but it's almost better to get right back out there, to continue with your deliveries, to continue, on the project at work, or continue on what's going on at home or whatever, just to stay active. Because for me, as I talked to you guys in the intro here, like, it's hard for me to relax sometimes because so many things are spinning around in my head. What do I got to do? What I didn't do? Replaying mistakes I made, worrying about the future. It's just kind of, I don't know. If I had to sum up myself, that's my biggest thing is I look ahead to the future, and I get disgruntled. I get down because I start worrying. I'm like, oh my goodness, all these things I got to do, or I haven't done yet. It's like, how am I this far behind? But again, that's just life. And I think I feel better about the sense of about just getting back on the horse. You fall off the horse, jump right back on. Let's go. Don't be afraid of it. It is what it is. And similarly, there are times when it is good to step away to recharge the batteries, if you will. I've done that a few times on the podcast here. Sometimes just having to step away and recharge and come back strong. And I know I haven't been as consistent as I would have liked to have been the past few months with this thing. There is a little bit of burnout. I'll say it. It's like, well, Mecca, you should have an hour to set aside every week. And I should, honestly. And that's why I want to continue to be committed to this. So I'm doing my best. Sometimes your best isn't good enough. I remember hearing that plenty of times before, and rightfully so. So maybe when your best isn't good enough, you got to dig a little deeper. And I know with the mistake I made at work, that's kind of how I feel like. Not everything you have control over, but how you respond to it is really what builds your character and things. So I'm hoping to not repeat mistakes, to not have things happen to me again that I can't control. But at the same time, you can't control everything. And I think that is a liberating feeling when you start to feel that you cannot control other people in your lives. You can't control the things that happen to you. When you start to believe, I shouldn't say the things that will happen to you, you can control your journey, your path, the outcome of really of the goals and things that you push. But you can't always control the other cars on the freeway, if you will. You know what I mean? Like, you can control how fast you're going, your destination, how much gas you have in your tank, but you can't always, have a say in what's going on around you. So I think that's another fine line in the life we're living these days, where there's so much of this. You can't do it. You can't do it on your own. You need, let me help you. Let the government help you. And it's like, no, only you can help you. The only hand you should expect is at the end of your sleeve. I think I heard the other day. It's you help yourself, and you may fall short of goals, but it's up to you to determine how far you go. And bad things might happen to you. Plenty of things have happened to me, but again, I can't control those things. I can control how I respond to them. And so that's something I continue to try to learn here at 38 years old. And I know I kind of rambled away there on everything, but I was a little frustrated and rattled by what happened to me at work. And, not everybody has a platform to jump on and share their feelings and thoughts on. And I happen to have that. I won't go into the details of it because it's kind of a private matter, if you will, but and there is some embarrassment as well. Again, very hard on myself. It's just the nature of how I remember what was a call I made. I made some type of call in a game one time, and I fell down on the field. That's what it was. Oh, I've done some really stupid. I've fallen down on the field. I've thrown the ball back to the pitcher and it slipped. It hit the catcher in the back of the head, who wasn't even like in the path of the ball of the pitcher. That was super embarrassing. I have had to leave the field multiple times to use the facilities, if you will. There's been all kinds of things like that. And just this embarrassment that has just come out upon me, just like, oh my goodness, I feel like the smallest person in the world at the time. But I got off track here. I'm all over the place, and I'm trying to knock out this podcast. I'm headed out to Long Beach State tonight to see a friend work the baseball games. Haven't been to a baseball game in a while, and going with another friend that I haven't seen in a while. So not really taking a vacation, but trying to take advantage of seeing some friends and things like that I'm not always able to do. Some other news. I'm not going to be working every single game, but I am in fact going to be working for the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes, once again, the single A affiliate of the Los Angeles Dodgers. So if you guys get out to games out there in Rancho Cucamonga, definitely look up in the press box, and I'm not sure where I'm going to be or whatever, but I'm going to be doing kind of like I used to do in the past. I used to do some official scoring there. I used to run their computer for their stats, what you see on like MILB.com, that game tracker stuff. I run the scoreboard. I might be running the pitch clock and things of that nature. But I'm going to be working a lot of the Rancho Cucamonga home games. And so it's nice to be around baseball. I've stepped away from the field. I used to umpire there at Rancho, not just in Rancho, but in the entire Cal League back in 2012, my last year in affiliated professional ball. And so it's nice to be around the game of baseball. I've since stepped away, and it's been good for my my soul and my blood pressure and all those things as far as umpiring goes. Every now and then I get a little itch to get back out there, mostly when I see my buddies, but overall, again, I'm at peace with it. But again, going back to the Quakes, like game operations, those are things I used to do in for the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes. This will be the third different time I've worked for them, which is cool. I used to work for Cal State Fullerton in their basketball and baseball programs. So I like being at a game in general, but it's fun to be a part of a game in some way. And it's kind of cool to be a part of it in a way where you're not getting yelled at. We all played ball as kids. Some of us coached. The very few and the proud of us got to be officials and umpires. But when you get to be a part of sports, kind of from that outside in look, working with not the media necessarily, but to be a part of it, game operations wise, that's a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that again this summer. So got to have the FedEx job, hustle to Rancho Cucamonga after work for their homestands. I'm like kind of a fill-in guy, so I'm not going to be working every single game. I think I'm working like 3 times in the month of April, but it's something new. It's kind of something new and something I've also done before that I'm excited about. And again, a little extra income, which is nice. We need that here in California. And definitely when I take a step away from FedEx for this week, again, with being my vacation week, it's kind of a good transition, a good time to start up something new. And so that's what I'm doing this week, Thursday and Friday. And I think that's it for this week. But anyway, big news there for me. Looking forward to that. And hopefully it's something I do longer than just the 1 year stint that I did in 2008. I did it again in 2019 and haven't been back since the whole COVID thing happened. So looking forward to that, to be around baseball, to see umpires, players, coaches, everyone out there working hard at the minor league level, and to remember the good old days, the days when I was one of those young lads running around and living the dream. And now it's fun to just, again, be a part of it some way or another. So I get to work with Dr. Chris Albaugh, as he's the voice of the Cal State Fullerton Titans and the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes. So I'll be seeing him quite a bit. Looking forward to that again. When I stopped umpiring baseball in 2017, 2018, I went back to the American Association, worked independent ball. When I came back and was done with that, I said, I gotta still be around the game and find a way to contribute. And that's why I was umpiring college ball and then working for the Quakes. But you guys don't want to necessarily hear all of that. But if you are at a game, hey, take a look up at the press box, give it a wave, and I'll try to say hello if I happen to see any familiar faces out there. Still a great bargain. I mean, the Major League Baseball prices now these days are through the roof. And yeah, still a good bargain to come out to a ball game, take the kids and have a good time there at the Epicenter, although it's now known as Lone Mart Field. So Major League Baseball, speaking of that, I guess this pitch clock thing has been working out pretty well. For the most part, there's still violations. There's still some work in progress, but apparently the game times are down, and there's still a lot of base runners. It's not just pitching, although strikeouts are pretty high too. That's, I guess, to be determined as the season goes. But I mean, these rules for right now in the month of April, they're working out just fine. It seems like games are moving along a little quicker. But we'll see again how it goes throughout the entire season. Sometimes rules are like really, really bad or really, really good early on, and you got to let it play out a little bit over the course of, in baseball's case, 162 games to really see the long-term effects. You know how you should like test something out before you try it out. Sorry, just a little dig there. To see the long-term effects of it. I think that's what we're going to see with the pitch clock. We're going to see a lot of unique things to baseball that we haven't seen before. And man, I'm all for faster games. Trust me. I've always been a guy that's, man, there's just too much downtime in baseball. So this could have been an area where I was wrong. A lot of other people were skeptical, and I'm still a little skeptical because I think there still could possibly be problems. I don't like the run around second base in extra innings thing. I don't like things like that. But for the most part, again, I haven't watched a ton of games, but everyone is just raving about how fast the games are moving. So I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing for everybody. And I can't talk sports without talking about the March Madness finale last night, the national championship game. I do want to give credit to my LA Kings hockey royalty. They are headed back to the playoffs. They had a good week last week, so can't wait for playoff hockey starting up here very, very soon. But it is now April 4th. We have crowned a new national champion in college basketball, the UConn Huskies, winning their 5th title. And I couldn't believe this when I read this. This is Connecticut's 5th national championship since 1999 when they won their first one. So 5 titles in just shy of a quarter century. I got to honestly say, you talk about Kansas and Kentucky and Duke, North Carolina, UCLA. Connecticut is one of those programs that is just kind of like not really forgotten, but they're not considered one of the like blue bloods of college basketball. And I don't exactly know what defines a blue blood, what makes that the I don't know, the Mount Rushmore of colleges. And this is no dig at UCLA because they have the most titles of anybody and an incredible program history. But just to kind of paint a picture for you, all of Connecticut's 5 championships have come since UCLA's last national championship, which is 1995. Again, no knock on the Bruins there. Arguably the best basketball program around and definitely the best one on the West Coast. Kentucky, only, I think, 1 title since since the UConn's first one. I'm trying to say that. I think you guys know what I'm trying to say. And we know we've seen Kansas and Carolina win multiple titles, but those are the schools you kind of think of with college basketball. But I think honestly, Connecticut, as they were just kind of getting started under Jim Calhoun when I was in junior high, and won that 99 title, I believe, against Duke. They've really established themselves. I'm not going to say a dynasty, but one of the most consistent winning programs out there. And three different coaches have led them to national titles now with Coach Hurley the other night. So Connecticut's a real deal, man, as far as big time programs go. I mean, I would you think of like a Syracuse or a Georgetown. You think of these as like big juggernaut, national basketball brands, but they don't really have the hardware that Connecticut does. Again, the past 24 years, 5 titles, man. I think any school would love to be in that. And that's not even to count the Final Fours and the other Elite Eights and Sweet 16 and great success that they have had over the past few years. So incredible players have gone through there. Connecticut has become, again, one of the biggest brands in college basketball with their success and their national championships. And I think I'm always about recent relevance, right? When you talk about, oh yeah, the Notre Dame football, they used to be good, but what have you done for me lately? We talked to UCLA, USC for a long time, hadn't had success until Pete Carroll came back as far as football goes. You can go on the NFL side of things, the Cowboys and the 49ers, all these teams that have great history. But again, what have you done for me lately? Recent relevance. And that's what just sticks out to me big time with University of Connecticut. And when you really think of it, it's kind of like, all right, it's a small state, it's surrounded by, New England and New York and all those other, states and regions of the country, the bigger cities. And you don't think much of Connecticut. All I knew about Connecticut was that's where ESPN was from, or where home base was, right? And then I knew, they had a pretty good basketball program. But here they are, and hey, men's and women's basketball. Gino Auriemma, is that how you say his name? The great success he has had. Connecticut, and now there's some much better women's basketball teams, which I will get to in a second. But the University of Connecticut, props to the Huskies on not only a national championship, but they seem to be a program that just has been so consistent, even in their down years. I mean, they've made some deep tournament runs here. And to win 5 titles in the modern era, really, in the past 24 years, that's really impressive to me. I mean, the first one in 99, again, Kentucky and UCLA a few years before that. You think of Arizona as this big basketball brand. I think they only have the one title there in the 90s. Syracuse, only the one title there with the Carmelo team. Georgetown, they might have a couple, and all those Big East teams. But University of Connecticut, they're just like, when you think of the universities, you name a university, you should know, all right, that's a football or a basketball school, basically, right? And you should also, when you say college football, there's 10 programs that come to mind, right? When you say college basketball, there's 10 programs probably that come to mind. I think Connecticut has definitely made the case that they belong on the Mount Rushmore of college basketball programs, hands down, right up there with Kentucky, Kansas, Duke, North Carolina. I'll say UCLA just because, they were in the Final Four, whatever that was, 3 straight years, not too long ago, and they have such great tradition there. But as far as overall success and national championships, man, what they've done the past quarter century is really impressive. And I just congrats to them. I was cheering for San Diego State. I was hoping for the big upset. I was frustrated throughout the night because San Diego State just couldn't keep it close. They got it to within 5, and I was like, all right, here they go. That would have been quite a story. I'm always the underdog guy and gonna cheer for anyone from Southern California, really. But it was exciting that the Final Four game between San Diego State and Florida Atlantic, an incredible ending. I gotta imagine just having your heart ripped out like that for Florida Atlantic to lose on the buzzer beater when you basically were winning the entire game for 40 minutes, 39 minutes and 59 seconds. You were winning the game. And Butler from San Diego State makes a shot that just sends him into the record books and the memory bank, I guess you would say. And what was also interesting, I was running my head through this as I was watching the game, and I posted on Facebook about this. That moment, that buzzer beating shot, Butler and the Aztecs. That had to be in the top 5 of San Diego sports fans moments. If you think about it, they've advanced to the World Series, I believe, twice in 84 and 98, 98, I think it was. They have been to the Super Bowl there in the 95 season. I think it was 90 or 95, 95 or 96 Super Bowl against the 49ers. And I think they were in another AFC championship game or two. So there's been some big wins for San Diego sports overall, but that one right there had to be top 5 easily in San Diego sports moments, just everything all together. And I know they don't have as many teams as, say, Los Angeles or New York or San Francisco, if we're sticking with the West Coast. But as far as San Diego sports, I think that moment in itself, that buzzer beater sending the San Diego State Aztecs to the national championship in basketball. I mean, it just sounds weird to say, but as I was seeing it before my very eyes, I'm like, wow, this is awesome. This is so cool. And I wish it would have been against a team that was like a little bigger name, than Florida Atlantic, but they earned their right to be there as well. I think a lot of people kind of took for granted that game, but it was awesome seeing two schools that, weren't Goliaths. They were kind of mid-major schools, if you want to call them that, fighting for a shot to advance to the national championship. And that was a heck of a basketball game. I was really thrilled that Saturday got to hang out and check that out, both games, and just chilling and watching back-to-back hoops. My brother came over. We got to enjoy that together. And it was just, I don't know, a buzzer beater. I was thinking about this too in sports. Like a buzzer beater in basketball is like the ultimate rip your heart out moment if you're on the other end of it, or jubilation, right? In baseball, you have the walk-off home run. Maybe you're up by a run and you hit a 2-run, or losing by a run, hit a 2-run home run. It is an instant like moment, right? Field goals in football, you don't see as many game-winning touchdowns. You see a lot of game-winning field goals in football when, it's either breaking a tie or something like that. Hockey, you got sudden death, which is still something that's really cool that I wish other sports would continue to do. But as far as a buzzer beater in basketball, I mean, that's the coolest. I don't know. That's the coolest end of the game aspect in sports, I think. I don't think anything else compares to that. When Japan won the World Baseball Classic, that was pretty cool. Down by 1 run, and then hit the 2-run double to win it. Again, that instant, but there's still a moment where it's still like an element of time as well, right? I guess what I'm trying to say is that with basketball, when a ball leaves a guy's hands and you hear that horn as the ball is in the air, and in the next split second, if this ball goes in, this team wins. If the ball misses, the other team wins. I mean, that is something that's so unique in a short amount of time. Now, again, football, you got the snap, the hold, the kick, it's up. That all takes about, 5 seconds or so. Same thing with any play in baseball, even a home run. And you're holding your breath in every pitch and everything. But there's something so unique about the buzzer beater in basketball, especially when it is a shot that either a 3 when you're down by 2, or a 2-pointer when you're down 1. When that shot, when the ball leaves your hands and it is literally a win or lose shot, and you hear that horn go off, time like freezes as a sports fan. You just kind of like, what? And then you're holding your breath and you just explode one way or another, right? And I've been on both ends, man. As a fan, I've been on both ends where a buzzer beater goes in. It's the greatest moment ever. You're as the ball's in the air, win or lose, you get that butterfly that's in your stomach. You're like, ah. So I think, man, I love football. I love baseball, hockey. I love all these sports. I think there's something true. That's probably why I like the knockout in boxing, right? It's just they're going at it and then bang, guy goes to the ground. Either the ref waves it off or it's he's counted out. But I got to say, basketball that is one thing basketball has. And if you think about it, when we were all kids, right, we may have gotten up to the plate and pretended like we were being announced in our head. Maybe we go back when we're playing football and we're like, Montana goes back, he finds Ryan, you're playing that. But in basketball as a kid, even if you're by yourself, which is something that is also great about basketball, is you can play it by yourself work on it by yourself. All of us, every single one of us would do the whole countdown thing, right? 5, 4, 3. And we every time it was like, and here's a shot to tie it, or here's a shot. It was always for the win. Right. And so to see that at the highest level in the biggest tournament out there in college basketball with a Cinderella knocking off another Cinderella. Oh man, it was goosebumps. It was just after the game, I was just absorbing it and being like, that is something that no other sport has, is that instant pain, that instant victorious jubilation. It's similar in other sports, but basketball's the one that has that. We've all watched our teams give up that shot at the end of the game, and it hurts so bad. That sinking feeling, kind of like when you're on a roller coaster, but not in a fun, exciting way. It's just your heart goes completely through your body to the ground. You're just like, what just happened? No. Rewind. Take it back. I don't want this to happen to me. And I think that's something that's so unique in basketball. And congrats to San Diego State on the buzzer beating memorable win. And then, of course, to UConn on their 5th national championship. And they are stamp of approval, really, to be one of the top basketball programs in college basketball around the country. However you want to say it, they are definitely one of the finest basketball institutions and deserve all the credit they get going forward. I was watching the game, and I came upstairs, and Val, she saw me watching the Nets getting cut down, and one shining moment, right? You got to stay for that and watch that. And she goes, "Oh, you're gonna watch all that after game stuff, aren't you?" I was like, I don't know why I find that so funny, but after all that after game stuff, she knows, like, oh, there's another like 30 minutes of this. I'm like, no, I just want to see them cut down the Nets. She's like, why are they doing that? I'm like, they're just for memories, memories from the game. Like, it's just tradition. It's a tradition, and you just do it, and you respect it. But all that after game stuff, I'm like, no, it's almost over. But anyway, so that was that. While I take a break from basketball, and I think you guys know the direction I'm going to go with basketball. I want to take a minute here to say that, sometimes we point the finger at people, or we are like, what is someone else doing or not doing that is messing up my life? Why are they confusing me? Why are they making my life difficult? It can't be me. What is going on? And as the example I want to give is, I've done this podcast, and most of the time I'm by myself now, unless I have an interview, talking to somebody else here on the podcast. And the past few months, I've moved the equipment, the laptop, and the camera and everything upstairs here in the loft. And our router downstairs, our TVs are all streaming. And so it's really never an issue internet-wise. And so when I do the show by myself, never really an issue. And I wasn't used to bringing people back on, or as far as a guest goes, through Zoom. And so the last few times I've had a guest, the Zoom connection has kind of like been in and out. And I'm just like, why is this happening? What has changed? My dad was really good about this. Again, to bring up my dad. My dad was always like, something changed. Somebody moved something. Someone did something. There's a reason something is off. And I remember and that was crossing my mind the past few weeks. And I'm sitting here going, why are my interviews with my guests not going as smooth? Why is it every single guest I've had come on has bad internet connection? What are the chances of that? Consecutive guests, and some of them have been graceful. Mark Carson, who I do the Charge to Keep podcast with, he's gone outside and tried different things with his phone. Other guests, we paused it and tried to restart it. And I was like, I haven't changed anything. What is different? And it finally hit me the other day that, the internet connection's probably fine being upstairs here while the router's downstairs when I'm just doing my own one-on-one or just single solo show. But I realized, I'm like, okay, Zoom, you're literally talking to someone. You probably need a pretty strong connection. And I'd never had issues before when I was downstairs doing the interviews for like the Charge to Keep podcast, doing all that from my kitchen table. Never had issues there really with the internet. And so it finally hit me. It's like, oh, it is you. Sometimes we're so afraid to like look in the mirror and be like, this can't be me. This can't be something I'm doing. It's got to be other people. And even if it's multiple people, like, well, 3 people in a row have had bad internet, internet connections. Don't they know we're doing a podcast? Don't they know that you need to have a decent connection so that we can talk and have a clean show? So it's just that moment that hit me of like, oh, it is you. Oh, no. I talk about officiating, umpiring a lot, right? Because that's just what I used to do. And it's the same feeling when you make a call. There's certain calls on the field you know you missed. And there's other ones you're like, yeah, I got that right. No, I got that right. And then there are those tweeners who are like, oh, I'm not sure, but I had to make a decision. And there's been times when you make a call and you're like, yeah, I got that right. Pretty sure. And when your crew gets together and tells you, no, you missed that, his foot was off the base or whatever. And it's just like, oh, it was me. It was my fault. Oh, okay. Well, let's change it. Let's fix it. Let's get it right. And so that was the conclusion I came to the other day. I was like, I'll be gosh darned. Like what me looking to point fingers at other people and didn't look at myself to be like, you should have had, you moved your connection further away from your internet connection. Hello. No, duh. You're going to have a staticky connection. So in moving forward, anytime I'm going to have an interview with somebody, I'm going to have this gear downstairs right next to the router. So there's no excuses. And I promise you a much cleaner connection. It's just for you guys. For those of you who've been here since day one, March of 2020, you guys know the ups and downs of me and technology and the fact that we are sitting here recording our 405th episode of the Get Home Safe podcast, as well as the other podcasts I do. This is beyond me that we're able to do this. The stress sometimes of all this just about kills me. And it's probably why I've been a little lackadaisical on the shows in moving forward. I'm kind of like, what am I going to talk about? Oh, after the end of the day, I'm tired. But today I had a lot of coffee, went did some Uber driving, did some work downstairs, and it's like, boom, let's do the podcast before I get to get out of here. So anyway, that's my long-winded rant that sometimes you are certain it is somebody else's fault. You know it. You're like, this can't be me. And then you take a step back and you're like, oh, actually, yeah, it was me. So 1,000 apologies to my audience and to the people that have been on the pod that I was probably accusing them of poor connections. It wasn't you. It was me. My fault. I'll wear it. My bad. Okay. The talk from the weekend has been women's basketball, women's college basketball. And I know that's probably not something you thought I would talk about ever on the podcast, but I don't want to necessarily talk women's basketball. It's what occurred in the national championship game in the Final Four between Iowa and LSU on Sunday. What's her name? Caitlin Carter. Is she the guard from Iowa? And I should know these two players. It's been all over the news. Caitlin Carter, Caitlin Clark, and then the LSU center. What was her name? Lee. I should have had this prep. See, I wasn't even sure I was going to talk about this. What I want to talk about specifically is trash talk. LSU forward Angel Reese. What did I say? Lee. Anyway, Angel Reese from LSU and Caitlin Clark from Iowa. Congrats to the LSU Tigers and their national championship over the Iowa Hawkeyes. But what occurred in the game apparently is Caitlin. I didn't know any of this until Sunday. Caitlin Clark, probably the best player in America, shoots the ball from all over the place. I don't know if she just rubs people the wrong way or what the deal is. LSU won the national championship, pretty much dominated on Sunday. And towards the end of the game, really we're taunting and Caitlin Clark. And I'm like, what is all this about? There's always a backstory, right? And so apparently Clark had done this before to other people or other teams. I kind of looked into it a little bit, and they showed footage of her doing whatever this. I don't like anything cool, really, or anything popular. It's kind of not my thing. But the whole this I can't see you thing, all these little phrases and demonstrations, it just drives me crazy. I had to deal with this stuff in baseball, specifically college ball, and just policing all this because guys would get offended and then this and that. And so anyway, I hate all this stuff. Just play the game and I'd say be a professional, but you're not. You're a college player. And adults want to be treated like adults, unless they're acting like kids. Then they want to be left alone and act like kids. Anyway, so apparently this Clark had done the you can't see me. I don't know what do we even call it, but she did that. I think in an Elite Eight game, walking away, not directed at a player, walking away. And so she did it. And then at the end of the game, in the championship game, LSU, Angel Reese is doing it directly to her, like right up in her face, pointing to her ring finger and demonstrate totally taunting her. And there's people who are up in arms about this, like, how come you're only mad about when one person does it, but not the other person? I will go on record as saying I don't like when anybody does this stuff. I don't like it from anybody. I do, however, see a difference between a clear taunting of somebody directly to their face so that everybody can see it, God and country and everybody, and walking away from someone and doing something. Now, I've been adamant on this show about, well, just because you're walking away doesn't mean you can't say something or do something, because in baseball that happens all the time. We have to eject guys. They get all mad. Oh, he's walking away. Anyway, I'll slow down here. I want to say that I was one of the. I think there's a huge difference between trash talk and taunting. It's one of the reasons I love fighting, boxing, MMA, is that it's the sport where say what you want, go ahead, say what you want, talk as much smack as you want, because it's going to be you and me in that ring, in that octagon, and you're going to have to prove it. And there's always this buildup of trash talk. And then usually when a fight ends, it's hugs, it's handshakes. It's, even if there is so-called bad blood, they're glad they did the fight, made the money, and hey, we put on a show. Let's do it again. I think I have seen taunting on the other flip side of the coin, where it's clearly like, it's usually, towards the end of the game or after a great play. And it's so much more than trash talk. Taunting seems so much more personal. Whereas trash talk, I'm talking trash to you because I really don't, it's nothing personal. It's just business type of a deal, right? I was one of the biggest trash talkers, I think, back when I was playing, specifically a little bit of football, but basketball for sure. And I'm sure some of you are like, what? And yeah, it wasn't so much loud. It was, I used to get under guys' skin by just whispering things and saying things that would get them so mad. But I was not a taunt. That doesn't mean I'm not saying it was right. It was just a stage, a phase I was going through, or, trying to get a competitive advantage, if you will. And I think trash talk is part of sports. Like, I really do. And I, Magic versus Larry Bird, Tom Brady versus, any pretty much cornerback in football. I did find it funny that Tom always argued with like guys in the secondary. He never really got up in the faces of linebackers and defensive linemen, guys that would regularly blitz him or rush the passer that would, tear his head off. It was always those defensive backs he typically trash talked with. Just an observation, Richard Sherman. Who did he go after this last year? I can't remember, but yeah, I always find that kind of funny. But anyway, Kobe Bryant, big trash talker, as far as like, I think he'd do it a little more quietly and just kind of say things like, hey, you're going to have a long night. Or Larry Bird famously, what the 3-point contest said, all right, which of you guys is playing for second place? These are just stories I've heard over the years. Brett Favre, big time trash talker, but in a kind of a fun way or whatever. So I'm trying to think of the worst thing I said to somebody. I probably got swung at for it or whatever. I got in all kinds of fight. If you haven't chested up in a basketball game or been chested up too, and I was always very short, so I'm kind of looking up, but you had to like have the feeling that give them the impression that like you were crazy and you were even if you were terrified, you're like, let's go. Wait, let me look around. Yeah, I got buddies here. They got my back. What do you want? And I knew that if I got thrown out of a game, our team wasn't going to be missing a whole lot of points. But if their best player got thrown out of the game, hey, that's playing real defense. If the guy you're guarding ends up in the locker room for any reason, hey, that's pretty good defense in my opinion. So I think trash talk is part of sports, part of the game. Anybody who's played with siblings or family, whether it be board games or backyard football, trash talk comes out. I mean, some of my best friends, Todd Carson, love you, brother. He even taught me how to do some of this stuff. I mean, he said some things to me, and I've said some things to him on a basketball court that you would think we were mortal enemies, playing pickup games and stuff. Bill Ritter, hope you're listening, brother. Hope you're doing well up there in Portland, Oregon. When I was opposite of his team, Bill was such a good basketball player, and I used to love getting under his skin. Give him a little bump here, little this, that, little that, little, call him really bitter instead of Billy Ritter. Like, I used to love that stuff, and it was no ill will. It was nothing personal. But in that game we were playing, in that scrimmage, it was on. And, when he'd go up and he'd dunk on me or whatever he did, he'd let me know about it. These are examples. I think trash talk is good for sports because ultimately a lot of it is just individual. People shouldn't know what you guys are saying to each other for the most part. And again, as a referee, I had to have really good ears. I had to wait, what did he just say to him? Oh, that's not good. That's not going to lead to anything good. Hey, I'm standing right here. I can hear what you're saying, and it's really bothering me, and it's not going down a good road. You'd have to, what's it called? Nip it in the bud, or you'd have to stop things before they started. But I think the biggest difference in trash talk and taunting is that it really does get personal, and that almost as a game is ending, that is when the trash talk should stop. That's the when it should cease. It shouldn't be this like, ha ha, we beat you. You're nothing. You're overrated, whatever. Because what that also does is that diminishes your success. If you beat somebody and then you start like talking smack to them after the game or after, in the handshake line or whatever, to me, what you're saying is you didn't achieve much right now, because the person or team that you just beat, you're saying that they are nothing, that it wasn't that hard. And maybe that's to like boost your ego. But if you're like mentally and physically exhausted after a game and you're like, yeah, you guys weren't anything, or, you ain't nothing, or whatever you want to say, you're basically discrediting your achievement success, really. And maybe in some cases, a game was super easy. So let me ask you this. If a game was really easy and an opponent really wasn't worthy, would you really waste words on them by saying those things, by taunting them and going after them? No, you really shouldn't, because you just be like, dude, you ain't nothing. I'm not going to talk smack to you. I'm not going to waste my breath on you. You're an easy opponent. Let's play 10 more times and beat you 10 more times. I do remember in high school, I think I told the story. We played Webb, of all places, the Webb Galls. We played them in baseball at their place, and they actually had some pretty decent athletes. They always get guys from all kinds of different countries from around the world and stuff, and they had some pretty good talent, actually. We played them close in basketball too. We had a really good team, but we played them in baseball, and it was our junior year, and we were playing 8-man football for the longest time, and we were going to be going 11-man the next year, and so these guys knew that. And we weren't playing them in 11-man because they were there and we weren't. So after the baseball game that we beat them, we're in our bus or getting into our bus, and these guys like stroll over, the baseball players, and they start like taunting us, talking smack about how we're going to learn what real football is like next year. You're going to play real football. We have the best running back in the Inland Empire, blah, blah, blah. And just talking total smack. Bigger dudes too. So these guys had to be linemen and stuff. And I'll never forget Jordan Ross. Jordan sticks his like head out the window. He's like, hey, I'll be number 5. I'll be number 5. I wear the same number 5. Like, just, yeah. Oh yeah. You ready? And we back Jordan up. We're like, oh yeah, really? The greatest running back in the Inland Empire, Webb football. It was a nice little altercation, and no punches were thrown or anything, but it fired us up, and we were like, oh, it's on next year. Webb, you're talking smack just because you've never played us in football before? Oh, okay. I mean, it was personal. So when we played them, and unfortunately, kind of a sad ending to the story, we did beat them on our homecoming game at Rio, actually at Monrovia High School the next year. But that so-called best running back in the Inland Empire, Caleb Reef, he actually played both ways. And we had a pass play or something, and we beat Webb pretty handily, but this was early in the game, and went back to pass and ended up scrambling. I was running up by the numbers and the sideline, and it was just me and him. And I had remember like the trash talk. And so I was just head to head. Here we go. I think I put my shoulder down, thinking in my mind, we're going to have this huge collision. And it was a decent collision. But the worst part was He was a bigger, stronger dude. He got the best of me. And when he tackled me, he rolled me up and my ankle caught weird. And I didn't break it, but might as well have. And had to go out. I could not walk. I was out for weeks after that. I was never the same. So that best running back in the Inland Empire, unfortunately, ended up hurting me because I think I let my ego get in the way a little bit from that trash talking moment. And unfortunately, I mean, I did play in a playoff game weeks later, tried to give it a go, but I wasn't the same. And it ended up hurting the rest of our regular season, as we had a lot of guys hurt, and had a good season. But that's just how I remember that was the last meaningful really play for high school football for me back in 2002. Who's counting? And yeah, I just remember that being a lesson. And as far as like, there's a time to have an ego, and there's a time to be smart and look to the future. And in that moment, again, as a 17-year-old kid, I thought I was invincible and was not, and paid for it dearly. But we did beat those guys, and I thought it was really weird that they tried to taunt us getting on our bus after a significant baseball victory. Anyway, I'm all over the place, but I don't like any of this stuff. Caitlin Clark, everyone's trying to turn this into a racial thing. Of course, can we stop? I mean, do we have anything new? Do we always have to go this route? Oh, I don't. Just when I talk about behavior, I don't care about. I could care less about somebody's race. I hate Johnny Manziel. I hate Baker Mayfield. I hate those guys. I don't even know. There's not many people. I love. I don't even know. Jalen Hurts. He seems like a good dude. Like, we always want to like bring race into these things. I'm so tired of that. I'm so tired. That's like the only thing we can talk about ever. Everything's got to be black and white. And I'm just like, no, there's dumb and good and right. There's stupid and professional. Like, it was a bad look, in my opinion, this whole taunting thing at the end of the game. Caitlin Clark apparently is a big trash talker. I don't know this for sure. This is just what I hear. And so I'm always going to support, in a way, some form of trash talking, because you have to back it up. But that said, if you don't back it up and someone steps up to you, chests up, makes fun of you, taunts you, well, you got to be willing to accept that. And so I think the people that don't trash talk probably don't get treated this way. But I also think there was more to it. I think it was more of somebody like the best player on the team, basically, who had a pretty good game. I don't know if there was a bitterness or whatever. I didn't like it at all. I don't like this stuff in sports at all. It's a pain in the you-know-what to officiate this stuff. I thought, from what I saw, the clips of the game, the officials just had zero control of this game. And I'll say, I posted this, and this is the last thing I'll say, probably about college women's basketball ever, but definitely the last thing on the show. That coach, Kim Mulkey, that for what she LSU, she was at Baylor for years. That is the most out of control coach I've ever seen on a sideline at any sport, and men's or women's. The manner in which she carries herself, it's constant. It's every single whistle. The world is against us. I mean, I say this confidently. I would have thrown her out in the first 2 minutes of what I saw on. I don't care what level the game is. I don't care. I threw a coach out in a high school game, and of course, do you know who I am? Yes, I do. Yes, I know who you are. And it doesn't matter. Your behavior, you don't get special privileges because everyone knows who you are. So I couldn't believe, I had a tough time watching the game anyway, because quite honestly, I don't watch a lot of women's basketball. I'm not against it. I'm in favor of it. Again, I've had plenty of jobs being able to make money working women's college basketball games with replay and things. So I support all that, but I just don't watch it that often. I had to hear, I heard about this, the Clark girl, and LSU's pretty good, and Mulkey coaching the team. And I just was like, that is such, I wasn't surprised that some of the LSU players acted the way they did, because what you permit is what you promote. Coach Mulkey. And I saw this when she was at Baylor too, ripping her jacket off and throwing such a tantrum. Just such a bad look as an adult, as a coach. I mean, Bobby Knight. Yeah, that's kind of what you look like, or she's probably trying to look like, but I just don't buy it. It doesn't seem real. It all seems some act and staged. And I'm just like, if I was a referee, I just like laugh at you if you acted that way. And she was like chasing officials. The officials to me were spineless in that game and didn't do anything about it. And I don't know if they were told like, hey, let her do what she wants. It's the championship game or whatever. That's a big reason. I'm not saying I was ever told those things as an official, like, hey, don't throw anybody out, or don't give any technicals in this game. because you cannot handcuff officials that way in any sport, or you're asking for trouble. So I've seen a lot of coaches. I've been critical of coaches at different levels, different sports. Kim Mulkey is definitely on the top of my awful human being coach, although that Dawn Staley with some of her she's always riling up the masses, it seems. Again, I had no idea I'd be talking this much women's basketball at any time of the podcast, let alone this week, but here we are. So again, if you're gonna trash talk, be ready to get taunted, I guess. I value trash talking over taunting, because taunting's easy. Taunting's like, all right, you have the one up. Trash talking to me is like, that's true. That's confidence. Like, all right, I'm gonna do something to, there's going to be something happen. Taunting, you've already achieved something good. You don't really need to rub it in someone's face. That's kind of weak, kind of lame. That's just me. Whereas trash talking, I could see it as a valuable tool, even though you need to be held accountable for those things. So Kim Mulkey, that technical foul's for you. I'd throw you out of the game in a heartbeat. And come on, officials, we got to get some spines back, America. My goodness. We can't have people behaving this way. Goodness sake. All right, I'm done. Enough, guys. Thanks for tuning in today on the Get Home Safe podcast. Another episode in the books. I will be back with you next week. I do want to say Happy Easter to everybody out there, as it is the Holy Week, Good Friday in a couple of days, and of course Easter Sunday. So he is risen. He is risen indeed. Should have probably gone into more of that here on the podcast, but I'll maybe do some of that this weekend, even if I maybe even record a show on Easter Sunday. So get that Easter ham, get those eggs ready. One of the great candy holidays on the calendar. Of course, Halloween, Valentine's, now Easter. Really not another good candy holiday until well, that's not even a candy one, till the summertime. That's more barbecues and s'mores and stuff. Anyway, eat, drink, be merry, give some time for the good Lord above. And thanks for tuning in today on the Get Home Safe podcast. Happy Easter, everyone. And as always, guys, no matter what you're doing, whether you're out on the town or around in third base, get home safe.